Privyet, and welcome to the M&E Show. My name is Emily.
And my name is Ethan.
3 inhales and exhales.
Let's do it. Inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. One more. Hold. Exhale. And thank you for taking those deep breaths with us. That helps us get a little more in tune with just this present moment, sink a little bit deeper in.
To the here and now.
And we are happy to have you back for episode number 5 of the M&E Show. Today's episode, we're going to dive into how we met.
The story of us. I need to sneeze. It's so interesting how when you say you need a sneeze, it doesn't come out.
Huh. Maybe you didn't need to sneeze. These are the conversations that we have on and off the podcast. And we could talk about sneezing for 30 minutes. But today, we're here to talk about how we met and the beauty that has come from an initial interaction that had no expectations, but has become profound in our lives. So we're excited to dive into that with you. And without further ado, Emily, why don't you start off the story for us?
My pleasure. It was June 11th, 2024, this year. And I was leaving acting class late at night. And acting class happened to be near one of the locations for the restaurant that I currently work at. And so I wanted to walk by after class just to see if there were people there, to say hello, see what was happening. So even though I've grown up here in New York my whole life and went to school here, I still, when I leave places, I'm like, which avenue is which way? Where am I going? And so trying to find out which way was Broadway, because that was the way to one of the locations of the restaurant, I turned to the people nearest me, which happened to be Ethan and his buddy Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. Hello. And I just said, which way's Broadway? And Ethan said, that way. And then I said, thank you. I started to turn. And then he said, are you a runner? Caught up to me because I was wearing my Hokas. And then we got into a little convo about my relationship with running and how I just started running this year. And Ethan and Ryan were looking for a place to eat. And I was like, okay, well, I'm on the way to one of the locations that I work at. Anyway, so let me introduce them. But we happen to be closing. So then I walked them to this sushi place that Ethan frequents.
Shout out Kazunori, the best hand roll bar in New York City, at least.
Yes, and it was late. I wasn't going to impose on their dinner, and I just stayed with them until they sat. But from the moment of us first meeting to the moment we sat, there were pauses in that journey of us speaking for a while. I think even before we went to the restaurant, we stood on the street for what felt like at least a half an hour talking about why we were here in that moment. And we found out a lot of commonalities, like his brother went to my high school, his mom's name is Nina, my best friend is named Nina. And ever since that moment, more and more, the more we got to know each other, the more we realized how aligned we were in a lot of things and how many ways the universe was like, you guys, like something's happening. And it's so funny because I looked like what I thought was a schmagegi leaving acting class. I had no intention of anything. I actually was looking forward to just meeting with myself for a while, falling deeper in love with myself.
After returning from a trip.
Yes, I had just visited Atlanta to visit one of my best friends, Spencer, who we also found out he knew as well.
And that was the first time you were flying alone.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And so then we were talking and I learned that he owns a gym and I was like, I'm going to check out this gym because I really am intrigued by this human person. So then I went to the gym and I learned that he wanted to develop his voice as an artist. So we set up a deal of sorts where I give him a voice lesson for up to 2 classes per week that I can take that he teaches. And so we had that deal for a while of just sharing and teaching each other's passions with and to one another. And of course, before lessons and classes and after, we get to know each other as individuals and learn. And do you want to add anything before I continue? So then
I'm enjoying this just as much as you are.
I always enjoy it. And then after one lesson, this has been happening for a few weeks, and then after one lesson, we were talking, and then Ethan was like, why do you have trouble looking at me? And then I said, well, if and when we are to kiss, I almost want to delay it as long as possible. I really just want to appreciate you and your humanhood before I even think about level of romantic attraction. Like I really want, because previously my lens was the opposite and I really didn't enter this rapport with wanting anything, but as time developed, it just made sense. And so then he was like, I agree. And then we had a very long hug and it was very sweet. And we could have kissed there, but we were like, okay, let me get my bag. And it was very cute. And then I'm trying to think if the sauna date was second or, no, the diner was first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then one night after that, we had a lesson and then he was like, what are your plans for the rest of the day? I said, I work. And then he was like, and I think I asked, what were your plans? And he taught. And then he was like, do you want to hang out later? I said, yes. So then I was working and then I texted him, I think the location of the diner, because what better place than a diner to see and hear someone's humanness. So I texted him the location of the diner. I said 9:45 p.m. ? He said, see you there, period. And then we went to the diner. We met at the diner and he looked so dapper and cute. And I thought I looked cute as well.
She did.
I wore a red dress with a white short sleeves underwear. I mean, under there. Anyway.
I didn't see her underwear that night, so.
So then we went to the diner and we shared a Oreo milkshake. We both had never done that, but it just felt appropriate. And it's so funny because I've always seen in the movies the dates where they share a milkshake and it just felt appropriate. And also it was close to closing. So we shared the milkshake and then I was like, well, we have to do karaoke. I've been teaching you the lessons. So then we went to a few karaoke bars in K-Town, but all of them had a big wait list, understandably. So then he was like, why don't we just sing back at the gym? Because I have a mic and a TV to see the lyrics and a speaker for music. So then we did that. And then it was wonderful. We sang each other a few songs. And then we were sitting on the couch, this couch, as a matter of fact, except we were switched places. And there was a moment of silence for a bit. And I said, what are you thinking? And he said, I'm thinking about kissing you. And then I said, well, I did say I want to delay the kiss as long as possible. So then we were just one with one another for a good, at least a half hour after that. And we really did delay the kiss as long as possible. I think I will pause there and let you either continue or speak on that so far, whatever your heart desires to share.
Well, I love how vividly detailed you remember each moment, and as you recall the story right now, I'm reminded of all those moments which I remember, but I don't know how well I could share the story the way you did, so thank you for that. It's so beautiful how one conversation on the street with a stranger led to just up until that point, and that was 5 months ago. So that was just the birth, the inception of our bond and our partnership. And at the time, friendship. And we really took it as slowly as we knew at the time how to take what we knew was sacred between us both and cherish that and not rush it. And it's allowed us to become who we are today because we really started at such a level-headed space in order to cultivate a healthy relationship with one another before jumping to next steps so quickly. And I think we've both learned from our past mistakes on how to not jump forward, but enjoy where we currently sit at in the moment and build from that. And that's what's allowed us to get to where we are today.
Yeah. There were just visitors at the door. We can speak on so many things. We could speak about our first kiss and different milestones we've experienced, and we can also talk about our strengths, what we think our strengths are as a partnership, what we like to share, and our, I don't want to say weaknesses, but things you/I would like to see improve, what we're looking forward to. Yeah.
Well, one thing that stood out to me was how when you would present yourself, I felt challenged. And I didn't know where that challenge was coming from, but your simple presence challenged me internally to show up as my most authentic self. And you didn't even have to say anything for me to feel the sense of wanting to be better and wanting to be truthful and honest, and knowing that if I was going to spend more time with you, everything that I was holding on to and not coming to terms with would have to come to the surface because I couldn't stand to be in front of you and not face those feelings. So while in the past I might have shied away from a relationship that made me feel challenged, it was the perfect time for me to meet Emily and face things that I wasn't facing before as confidently as possible. And your presence truly allowed me to step up and say, okay, it's time. I'm going to get better. And you're helping me do that. So thank you for that.
Wow, that was very beautifully said. Thank you for saying all that.
My pleasure.
I recently spoke to an astrologer, and I'm a Scorpio, Ethan's an Aquarius, and one of the first things he said was, like, you both challenge one another and are excited by this challenge, and that's a major pillar of the relationship, and it's so true. I feel the same with you. I feel like, and before filming this episode, I was talking about how there is a lot of sacrifice to being in a relationship of sorts. There's sacrifice in terms of, okay, I'm going to stay at his apartment for a night or two. I'm sacrificing my space and the comfort of my space. I'm okay. I'm in the mood for this for dinner. He's sacrificing what he may have wanted for dinner, and there's a sacrifice of self in a way, of old versions of ourselves, old patterns, and things that if we want to be our best for one another, we have to be our best for ourselves and show up as authentically and as honestly as possible and challenge ourselves as individuals to let go of the old habits and patterns and thought processes, narratives that have kept us comfortable for so long. Like we really bring out the best in one another and we really see ourselves and the truth of who we are and our potential through one another, I feel, which is the ultimate gift. It's so beautiful and I'm so grateful. It's not easy, but I've never been more at peace with the uneasiness of it.
I think when you say it's not easy, it's uncomfortable because in a way, we allow each other to be our authentic selves and we hold space for it with no judgment. But when you're not your authentic self for so long, even when the perfect person comes into your life who's ready to accept you for who you are, you still have to accept yourself first. And no matter how amazing the person is that's standing across from you that you're looking at, who's so ready for you to be yourself, if you're not ready to be yourself, even an angel can't help you. So make sure that when that person arrives, because you'll know when it's right in front of you and the opportunity to be who you are is right here, get yourself ready for that moment and take it or don't. But if you do take it, I can't help but smile. Worlds open up and you realize how much there is to live for and how much amazing, beautiful, abundant possibilities there are that lie beneath you accepting yourself.
Yeah, I really felt that we met at a time where we both were as close to equally comfortable with our own beings as possible. And that's what created the foundation for the desire to be as authentic as possible because we were at that time comfortable with everything that made us us, including the things we're still making peace with. But yeah, whenever I tell people how we met, like, oh, we met on the street, it's so interesting people's reactions. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Or like, oh, I want that. And I feel that we are so lucky to have that because we are two individuals who really challenge ourselves, even before we met, to be as open and positive and spread light as much as possible. And because we both have been aligned that way until the moment we met in that way of just being open to something as positively possible as meeting someone randomly, meeting the love of your life randomly on the street. I think everyone's capable of it. And the key perhaps is just openness to positive possibility and, like you were saying, being as one as possible with the truth of your being.
And just to add to that, being aware as much as you can of where you really are at with yourself. Because if you know there's things left for you to face, you're not going to meet someone who's faced every single one of their demons fully. You will meet someone, most likely, who is, if not exactly where you're at, very close. So you have to then think, okay, I know what else I have to let go of, And I'm going to bring that into this relationship, knowing that I'm not perfect. And I know I'm not perfect because I haven't fully accepted myself. And I'm aware of that. If you're aware, as far as you know that you've accepted yourself fully, you'll meet someone who also feels that they're aware that they've accepted themselves fully. But Emily and I, over these last 5 months, know that when we met, we had a lot of baggage as individuals to unpack. And we were aware of that. And that's why when I would see her, I'd feel challenged. And she would feel safe to be aware that she has stuff to let go of as well, and that we could do it together. And you don't have to meet someone once you've solved all your issues. You don't have to be perfect to meet someone, but you do have to be honest to yourself when you meet someone about what it is that you still need to work on, and be as open and vulnerable to that person that you're talking to as possible to then find out what they need to work on and then build that relationship. And that's when beauty can happen. And that's when you become one with one another. And that's when you become your most authentic self. Your partner becomes their most authentic self. And you build this bond that from the outside, people will think and they'll feel an energy that transcends time. I had a friend look at a photo of Emily and I and say, it feels like you guys have known each other for lifetimes. And even though it's only been not even half a year, it feels that way for us too. It's hard for me to imagine what my life was like before Emily walked into it. And that's a special feeling to have. And I'm so grateful for it.
I'm grateful as well. My roommate said something that sticks with us, which is, you guys are the slowest, fastest couple I've ever met, which is just another way of saying you transcend time. Because it's true, we really are two people who recognize and who have helped each other recognize the preciousness of here and how it can be taken away from in any moment, and how each milestone is a privilege and a gift. And it's about not getting to those milestones as soon as possible, but really embracing the journey and all the feelings that come along that journey of getting to that milestone. And I think that's really helped our relationship flourish the way it has as well, because we are so okay and at peace and support the pace at which things have unfolded.
Amen.
Amen. So, what do you think, either what is our greatest strength as a partnership, or what do you love most? I guess, if not the challenge. And what do you think we can improve upon, or we each can improve upon, to make this partnership that much stronger?
Our greatest strength is that we are able to share vulnerable thoughts with one another and share how we're feeling, what we're thinking, and therefore creating as much presence as possible, because we're not behind these layers and these walls that we've built for ourselves that shield us from you seeing me and me seeing you. So I think that is a huge strength. Our ability to even have a conversation with you watching and listening and being vulnerable enough to talk about the struggles that we'll go through, and just even talking about ourselves. That's vulnerable in and of itself. So I would say that's our biggest strength by far is our honesty and openness with one another about things that not every couple necessarily wants to share. And then I think our challenge for us is continuing to form our own identities as individuals by way of how we are outside of our relationship, and then figuring out how those identities as individuals create the healthiest, harmonious bond between us two, and how we can help ourselves, help each other, help our relationship. That's 3 different things to work on at the same time. So that is our biggest challenge. It's continuing to evolve in all three facets, helping each other. Well, first helping ourselves. I think that's always number one. If you're not good, you're not taking care of yourself, there's no way you're going to be able to take care of me and my needs. If I'm not taking care of myself, there's no way I'm going to be able to give to you 100% the way I want to. And then how could we possibly, at that point, give anything to a relationship? Because we're already struggling enough. And so I think start with us as individuals, then with one another. Then we go to the relationship and be like, okay, how can the relationship itself, which is almost a separate entity that links us together, how can that be as strong as possible? How do you feel about that?
I concur. I thought that was all very well said. Adding on to the greatest strength of being able to share vulnerable thoughts, I think in tandem with that, we both challenge ourselves as individuals to create a safe space and give ourselves and each other grace as much as possible, a space of non-judgment. Because I feel like everyone's capable of sharing vulnerable thoughts, but not everyone's capable of receiving them. And we work just as hard at receiving vulnerable thoughts as we do as sharing them. So yeah, I just want to add to the ability to share is the ability to receive, and to just at a foundational level, just breathe with one another. The effort we put into just breathing with one another and saying gratitude and expressing the simple joys of our lives when we wake up and when we go to sleep, I think is so foundational to the strength of our relationship. Just a continuous reminder of what's important and how we can both be a safety net for one another. In response to the challenge, I so agree. Ethan met me when he had just been 2 years single, and I almost envied that because I wish there is a part of me that wishes I had time to myself before I entered this. And at the same time, I love you, and there was no way I wasn't going to continue forward. And my challenge is still being alone with myself. It's still hard for me, and I don't want our time together to be a nothing short of just intentionally being with one another. And I don't want it to be like a supplement or a replacement for me just not being able to be alone with myself. Like, I want to be intentional with my time with him and my time alone, and be able to hold hands with myself outside of him, let alone hold hands with him. Like, that's just the cherry on top. But the real gift and the strength of us is our ability to individually hold hands with ourselves. And the more we're able to hold hands with ourselves, the more
that hand is stronger for each other.
Yeah. And the stronger the love is exchanged.
And the stronger we're able to create love for others outside of us two.
Mm-hmm.
Because it starts with one. Now we have two. How many can we join forces with to really make a lasting impact in the world? Thank you. And I feel like that's a good way to take us out.
Yeah, it's a good way to take us out. I just want to add that we've had conversations about saying the phrase "I love you," and I think we both agree where when it comes to spreading the love that we share and growing that love, I think it would be so cool if we all had the ability to just say "I love you" to one another when we part ways, because we are all each other. Like, he is me and I am you, and I am the person on the street walking by. I'm the homeless person. I'm the billionaire. We are all human first, and I love you is such a gift to share and receive.
Hmm.
But I think the thought is so cool if we all just said whenever we were leaving or entering a space, like, I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I
So
love you.
I love you. Thank you for being here and just receiving just a small snippet of our love. There's so much to say. It's so crazy how it's only been 5 months, and it does feel like a lifetime. Every day is so full with us, and I'm so grateful, and it's so beautiful. I wonder if couples like us out there have experienced similar signs from the universe we have affirming that we are meant to be. And maybe that will be a separate episode, the ways in which the universe has told us, like, you guys.
Or told you at home that your relationship is feeling the same way that ours is. Because we hope that we're not the only ones, and I don't think we are.
For sure. Well, thank you for being here and have a gorgeous day.
Farewell.